steadfastly maintained that, stupidly, somewhat, you might say, maintained that if Dyer was out, that Rodon would be the is his understudy. I guess that's where he would play. And I guess when we talk about the Morecambe game, we'll find that actually that is where he plays. But clearly, Conte doesn't rate him enough or didn't trust him enough to put him in a game of that that importance against Chelsea. So, Simon, you've sat there really quietly for the last 40 minutes whilst we've debated this. So, very quickly, what were your thoughts on the game, on the Chelsea game, and what positives or what positives can we take into the game on Wednesday?
I think that the two own goals, whilst I agree they were of our own making, I think they were. I'm trying to decide how I wouldn't say unlucky is the wrong word, but because they should never have got into that position in the first place to have then have that error forced, if you see what I mean. But both of them were. I feels unfortunate. I'm not saying that we were brilliant and therefore didn't deserve it, but it just felt unfortunate. And had we been more on the front foot, it might have felt less painful because we might have got something more out of it. So, but clearly they were smarter. They forced the players to make a couple of mistakes, and that's what's cost.
Yeah, so I mean, I will let you continue. I just want just looking at those two specifically. So the first one, I think, that was the own goal was due to good work from Chelsea, high pressing, Tanganga playing a silly pass, and then Chelsea springing and Sanchez just not being ready. And I know, like a Chelsea fan, and was talking to them on Thursday about the game, and he thought that I was harsh on Tanganga when saying that for me, Tanganga was definitively at fault for, first of all, for both goals, but more so for the second goal, because he should have just cleared it for a corner, and then we deal with the corner rather than try and clear it into off in a direction that he's not facing, so you can't see where he's going to clear the ball to. His body shape and everything was wrong to try and attempt to do what he was trying to do. So, especially having made a mistake already, you'd think he'd just go back to the basics. So, while I think you're saying you're right, it's unfortunate, I think that the second one more so was preventable if he just stuck to the basics.
Fair enough. I think it's just one of those things, because I guess just coming away from and to be fair, I only because I wasn't hit. Because I was away, so therefore I didn't see the full thing. I've watched the highlights package. It just felt that yes, there wasn't any moments on our for us which I thought were stand out, and therefore we should have made more of it. I think we were feels like we were trying to play a more defensive game, but then that didn't work for us, and then we had nothing else to go with, and therefore we sort of screwed ourselves. And I don't know why that is. Is it because we face, trying to be clever? We faced Chelsea before in semi-finals, therefore we were trying to, outsmart them by playing a different game and not being slightly more defensive, or were we just outplayed? I think it's probably more the second.
I think it's the second.
Hoping that sort of like on a two-legger, you can get away with the first leg being away. You can get away with being too badly unscathed, and therefore you can come home and do what you need to do. I think that's, but the problem is that didn't, they basically therefore got found out by being forced into two errors, which have now cost us 2 goals. So I think it was a gamble that Conte played, and it hasn't come off.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm obviously, if you've just watched the package, I'm not sure if you've seen the interviews afterwards as well, but I'm not sure that in terms of how we performed is necessarily, what Conte would have had an expectation of, because I feel that we get into those situations realise what it is. It's a semi-final against a very good Chelsea team, and we just freeze, and Chelsea know where they are, what they're doing. They know the situation. They know like what's at stake at that moment in time. There's a semi-final of a cup, right? Fucking pull your finger out of your arse and play, and they do. And we go, it's a semi-final of a cup against multi-million-pound squad like Chelsea, with quality there, quality coming in from reserves, quality, and the players visibly, to me, looked scared of the situation, of the occasion. I think, like, notably when we got to the cup final last year, our run was quite, everyone took the piss because we hardly played anyone of note, to get there. Yeah. And this year, the first time we played someone of note, and we've still got a second chance, but we're not out of the game. But I think we really need to turn up for the second leg. And what I would say is that the fans, I thought, were outstanding on the day. I thought they sung and they made a lot of noise, and they really tried their best to lift the team as much as they possibly could on the day. But anyway, go on, mate. Yes, Jay.
I was just going to mention quickly, about the comment that you made about the team being nervous, and do you think an element of that is an element of doubt in the players' minds, that who are in front of them and who's behind them aren't quite good enough? You've got the defence there that look forward and see Skip and Højbjerg and know that if they play the ball into them, they're going to do absolutely fuck all with it. Then you've got Doherty playing on the left. Is that part of it? Then you've got the midfielders looking back and going, "Fucking hell, we don't have Dyer. We've got Tanganga and Sanchez."
I think more so. You're right about the looking back thing. So looking back and seeing, and we've discussed this in the past about Sanchez not being able to be moved. You can't move him. Just play him right side of the central three. Don't move him. He can't deal with being moved. And so they look back and they see that Dyer, who's probably been our best defender this year, is not available. I don't think the other way, like looking at Skip and Højbjerg, would be that much of an issue, because we've played with that combination for a lot of the time since Conte's been there, and probably under Nuno as well. So they're used to that combination, and Skip's a good player, and everyone thinks he's done really well. But I think you're certainly right that when they turn around and they look and they go, Sanchez is he's the leader at the back today, and that doesn't fill anyone with a lot of confidence. I think you're right. Yes, Rich.
Well, yeah, I think sort of adding on to what Jay was saying there, really about the mentality of the side. There's a phrase that people in Yorkshire have that's at Spurs are neither. It's not about Spurs generally, but I think it applies here. Spurs are neither out nor summer, and that's, if you think about it in those terms, that the side they're not cohesive as a unit, like a proper underdog. We're a middle of the table team, and we've gone to Chelsea to give them a good fight. Yeah. We don't have that underdog mentality. We're not cohesive in that way, and also, the players that are of international class within that side are looking around, and possibly they're wondering who it is that's going to, who can they have confidence in. I think Tanganga is a really, really good sort of microcosm of that, because I think I don't know if it's Steve or Lee have said about him before, that he sort of plays in his head a lot. He appears to be, whether it's overthinking the game or underthinking the game, one or the other. I mean, he's got technical ability. He can clearly, there's a player in there, but all of the things that he does are, whether he's snatching at a ball, snatching at a rash challenge in a bad area, whether he's switching off, they seem to be these kind of mental blocks. And you can see that sort of front to back through the team, don't they? They're kind of choking all the time. And they're just 11 players. I mean, the first note I made during that Chelsea game was, why do we always start matches like we're suddenly surprised to be on a football field? And I wonder whether or not the extension to that is it's whether or not they're surprised to be on a football field standing next to the people that they're standing next to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. Like, Lee, you're going to say something? Were you about to jump in?
Just about to jump in on the point about Tanganga is that I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's actually a good player, but personally, I think he just doesn't suit the system that he wants to play. And we did look better when we went to a back four. Everyone looked much more comfortable, and I think that may be where Tanganga would fit in better. But that's not going to be the way forward. So you have to question whether he's got a.
Should we like Lee, just if we look at that, because I think that's a great point. And you know, as we went in the second half, we went to a back four and we looked more comfortable and kind of saw the game out with with minimal kind of damage or no more damage than we'd already had. So is it a case really of Conte having to know his players or know his players a little bit better for that moment in time? So his ideal is a back three. Dele at the moment is getting a lot of stick, and we're going to come and talk about Dele. I think there's a point that Rich has made, so we're going to talk about that in a little while as well. But when Dele looked his best under Conte, we played in a 3-5-2 with Dele like deeper. But when we played recently, he's probably not played that system, so you can't get the best out of him. So is it a case of like Conte needs to be a little bit more flexible with the systems that he uses, with the personnel that he's got, until he gets the players in that he wants to always suit the system that he wants to use, rather than I think we said it before, round pegs in round holes. Don't sort of force a square peg into a round hole just for the sake of saying, well, this is how I like to play. I love to play with the back three. That's my system. That's what I'm known for. So that's what we're going to do. Because when he changed it, we looked a little bit more comfortable with those players that were out there.
Well, I mean, you could look at it both ways, really. That yes, he needs to get to know those players, and then you'd understand where they're best suited to play. But you could look at it from the point of view that he's trying to test them out in those positions, because that's the way he wants to play, the style he wants to play. Are they capable of following those instructions as they've been practicing in game situation? And clearly, some of them aren't quite up to it in get. It's very different to even if you're doing high intensity training, I'm sure. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really have the answer to that one, Steve, but I just think that there might be a few casualties of the squad that aren't because they aren't good enough. They just aren't right for our system as he wants to play it.
Well, Rich might have the answer because he had his hand up. So, Rich.
No, I don't have the answer at all. But somebody else might. Just purely as an aside, minutes before we came on to record this podcast, somebody asked Ralph Rangnick that question before the Man United match. Gary Lineker, in his pre-match little segment, said that he's obviously up there and he started playing them in the 4-2-2-2. And he said, have you found the right players to play that system, or are you going to have to change your system until you can find those players? And he said, you can't keep changing the system. You have to use the system and make the players adapt. And I wonder if that is, And
I can't remember the next part of the question, but there was a point, a part that Gary asked Rangnick, and Rangnick was like, I don't know what you mean. And Gary said, well, like, because you're at Man United, you need to win. Like, and so where Lee, like what you're saying about trying to test the players and see if they if they're able to manage in their system, that's fine, that's well and good. But I thought that the big thing about Conte and is that he wants to win. I thought so that should be that he should be adaptable enough to recognise, and he did, and he was in the end, because